Devaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cha Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. So continuing with the discussion on Prabhupada Lilamrita by Srila Goswami, Volume 6, Chapter 54, At Home in Vrindavan. So Prabhupada is in Vrindavan. It's his final pastime, we can say, and he's not well. Srila Prabhupada was becoming more and more in favor of departing from the world. When Tamal Krishna remarked that Prabhupada was not drinking much, he replied that he had no inclination. I don't know what to say, Srila Prabhupada, said Tamal Krishna. It's certainly bewildering. I can only expect somehow Krishna will have to do something. Tamal Krishna requested again that they bring a doctor. Still, some husband must be there, you said. Tamal Krishna reminded. We should have a doctor's help. I still believe that. After all, we are not doctors. No, said Prabhupada, but we are already taking help of a doctor. Ayurveda, that is Yogendra Ras. You're just beginning that now, of course, said Tamal Krishna. Tomorrow you might give it up. Then what will be our position? Widow, said Prabhupada with a laugh. Then he added, actually, Krishna is ultimate husband. The devotees with Prabhupada found it very difficult to adopt his mood of looking forward to his passing away. Once during a kirtan, Upendra asked if Prabhupada wanted something to drink. When Prabhupada refused, some of the devotees began to cry, thinking that if Prabhupada didn't eat or even drink, he would not remain with them much longer. The devotees were trying to be submissively resigned to Prabhupada's will, and they accepted that his direction was more and more towards leaving. They were coming to accept it, surrounding him with kirtan and not causing him any inconvenience with their problems or demands. Whatever he wanted, they should want. But the idea of his passing away was still almost unbearable. Of course, first to see him in this situation, and then he was passing away, and all the devotees, like Keshav Bharati Maharaj, once he said, when Prabhupada was leaving, he was there in that room and standing at towards the lotus feet, and he was at the bed. And he said, this man changed everything in my life. Everything. How I dress, how I eat, how I walk, how I talk, how I think, everything from whatever I was grown up with to what I am now. So devotees just couldn't bear thinking that Prabhupada is going to leave. They always thought Prabhupada will always be with us. But Prabhupada was leaving. In their resignation, the devotees became philosophical. Rupanuga said Prabhupada could be likened to an ambassador in a foreign country. He may have many affairs in the foreign country, but finally he is called back. Jayadvaita said that Prabhupada had taught his disciples everything, and then now he was teaching them how to die. Another devotee said that Prabhupada had better friends in the spiritual world. In their talks, the devotees stressed the importance of their cooperation with one another, and they discussed how ISKCON would continue in the future. But it was all depressing. It is depressing to see Srila Prabhupada, not just a spiritual master, he was the founder, he gave everything, he taught them everything. And now he is leaving. How will they continue in the future? Nevertheless, they kept returning to the unpleasant but unavoidable realization that Prabhupada would very soon leave them. With Prabhupada so clearly indicating that he had decided to definitely leave, the devotees were becoming despondent. At best, a solemn mood prevailed. Then Srila Prabhupada said they should consult Narayan Maharaj, a disciple of Prabhupada's sannyas guru, for details on how to conduct the ceremony for a departed Vaishnava. So, yes, Narayan Maharaj a disciple of Prabhupada's sannyas guru. So Prabhupada took sannyas in Mathura, and Keshav Gaudiya Mutt, something like that, if I'm remembering it correctly. And Narayan Maharaj, I believe he was there when Prabhupada took sannyas. Or maybe later. Narayan Maharaj was much younger. But very, very advanced devotee, very exalted devotee, Vaishnava. And him and other Gaudiya gurus also, they gave uh, association to Prabhupada disciples after Prabhupada left. And Prabhupada called specifically him to tell the details on how to conduct the ceremony for a departed Vaishnava. He also described where a samadhi should be located and asked that after his departure, a feast be served in all the main temples in Vrindavan, with ISKCON bearing the expense. See, he wanted to that detail, and also just imagine, Prabhupada was going to leave, all the devotees are sad and they're crying. It's a very difficult situation actually when a devotee leaves. The devotees who are here, they are sad, but the associates of that person, like Prabhupada, they would be rejoicing in the Vaikuntha or Golok Vrindavan that he's coming back. He'll be with us. So then that's why there is a feast. It's a very difficult situation. There is Prabhupada has all the main temples in Vrindavan, there should be a feast. Not the feast that, okay, our spiritual master is gone. No, he is gone back to Golok Vrindavan to be with Krishna. The devotees should be happy for that. Of course, they are sad that they won't get the association again. It's very difficult situation, very difficult. How can somebody be sad and happy at the same time? I mean, in our household, if suppose my father died, I cannot be happy. Of course, looking from one sense, from practical sense, yes, he is old, it's good, he's gone, he won't have to suffer the old age or diseases again. Or as a devotee now understand, okay, he'll get a new body and then he can continue on with his life. But at the same time, there is sadness in the heart. But here, when the guru is leaving, that's very difficult situation. On one level, everything seemed to go on as usual. The October weather was very pleasant. The Gurukul boys were continuing with their routine, and the deity worship went on as usual. But in front of the temple, workmen began clearing a space for Prabhupada's samadhi. And that samadhi, their wonderful samadhi structure they have built, and Prabhupada's worship goes on every day. Before the Mangala Arti in the main temple, there is Prabhupada's Arti in the samadhi. After several days of Prabhupada's not eating or drinking, Tamal Krishna tried again, but gently. You don't want to drink anything today? Let me drink Harinam Amiya Vilasa, said Srila Prabhupada. So that's a bhajan, and Prabhupada said, let me drink that. Jai Srila Prabhupada, said Harishavari. Harinam is the sweetest nectar. Nivrittarshe rapagiya manam bhavoshadat. Prabhupada quoted this bhavoshada, Hari Kirtan. Jayadvaita completed the verse. Bhavoshadat shatra mano viramat. Prabhupada acknowledged. And Charnamrit diet and medicine. Let me depend on these. Can we imagine? Not drinking, not eating anything. How can somebody survive more than, I would say, 3 days? But Prabhupada was like that. Just listening to Kirtan and whenever he wanted, Bhagavatam was read to him. Although he was fasting, Srila Prabhupada inquired about the prasadam being served to the devotees. Now 100 or more extra devotees were at the temple and more were expected. This time, what do they supply? Asked Prabhupada. What they supply? Said Tamal Krishna. You mean prasad? Of course, today is the day after Ekadashi, so they had some cereal made with gur and some fruit salad made with guavas and bananas. That is all this morning. Lunch is usually substantial. Very good. This is the best prasadam that we have had in many years in India. The cook, Ayodhyapati, is doing very nicely. Do you want to know what he cooks for lunch? Prabhat nodded slightly. He cooks an aloo sabji with dal sauce. Tamal Krishna continued, and he makes bhindi, very nicely spiced, and dal, roti, rice, apple chutney, and dahi raita every day. Prabhupada asked who assisted Ayodhyapati. He didn't want any hired cooks. Yes, that's a standard. No hired cooks. Devotees should be cooking. Only devotees are cooking, said Tamal Krishna, and it's very tasteful. And every day, everybody, about 125 devotees, sit together and take prasadam. And the guests from the guest house also take. Everyone takes together. Everybody liked, asked Prabhupada, smiling. Yes, oh yes, was a combined reply of the devotees in the room. They all crowded close around Prabhupada's bed. That's nice, said Prabhupada. And if I remember correctly, because I had read about this cook, and I'm 100% sure if it's the same cook. So this Ayodhyapati Prabhu, he was so busy cooking in the kitchen. Whole day he was cooking. He didn't have time to even chant. And he came to Prabhupada saying, Prabhupada, what do I do? I mean, I don't have time to chant. I'm cooking whole day. Prabhupada just exempted him from chanting. He said, you don't have to chant. Just cook for the deities, cook for the devotees. That's good enough. So that was a service mood, and that was a mood of Prabhupada that you are doing service, serving deities and devotees who don't need to. But of course, that doesn't apply on us. Prabhupada could make that exemption. So that is nice, said Prabhupada. You're the perfect father, Srila Prabhupada, said one of the devotees. You provide everything for us, a place to live, food to eat, everything. And you have trained us in spiritual knowledge. Prabhupada uttered one of his deep sounds. Then he said, chant all together. And the assembled devotees gladly began the kirtan. The room was very dark except for a night light behind the head of Srila Prabhupada's bed. Devotees were chanting softly, using only the one tiny pair of kartals for keeping rhythm. Tripurari Swami was massaging Srila Prabhupada's feet, Bhagatji his right leg, and Tamal Krishna his left arm. Suddenly Narayan Maharaj from the Devanand Saraswati Mutt, Devanand Saraswati, not Kai, the Devanand Saraswati Mutt in Mathura entered along with two of his men. Prabhupada's disciples immediately gave him a seat at the side of the bed. Srila Prabhupada began speaking, but so softly that Narayan Maharaj had to lean over to hear. Seeing a conversation about to begin, the devotees in the room, numbering about 15 or 20, moved in closer. Srila Prabhupada began. Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, said that we should preach in Europe, America. That was his desire. And his other desire was that we all would work together jointly to preach. Yes, that's right, said Narayan Maharaj. I didn't waste a single moment, said Srila Prabhupada. I tried my best, and it has been successful to some extent. Srila Prabhupada's voice was choked with emotion. If we work conjointly, he continued, then as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Prithvite. Like that shloka, Prithvite Acha Yatnagaradigram. Sankirtan has great possibilities. My life is coming to an end. It's my desire that you all forgive me for my mistakes. My God brothers, when you're preaching, at times there are some disputes, some misunderstandings. Maybe I also committed some offenses like that. Please ask them to forgive me. When I'm gone, you'll all sit together and decide how you can manage for some utsav or festival for me. How much should we pay? What do you think of this? So see his humility, saying in preaching there could have been misunderstandings, some disputes, but you please, I must have committed offenses, please ask them to forgive me. Of course, Narayan Maharaj, he had come not as a representative of Gaudiya Math or all the other devotees, but he had connections with everybody. And through him, Prabhupada wanted to convey this message. Please forgive me if I committed any offenses. And decide how you can manage the Samutsav or festival for me and how much we should pay. Whatever instructions you give me, said Narayan Maharaj, I'll follow them with absolute sincerity. I consider you my guru. Narayan Maharaj said that what Srila Prabhupada had created should be protected, and it was everyone's duty to do so. He pledged to help in whatever way he could. Srila Prabhupada inquired if his god brothers who had temples in Mathura Vrindavan were present, and Narayan Maharaj replied that most of them were out of station. Regarding Srila Prabhupada asking his god brothers for forgiveness, Narayan Maharaj said, they're all trivial things. In this worldwide preaching, if some little things go wrong here and there, what difference does it make? It's all right. Whatever you have done for the well-being of the entire human society. There is no individual interest. Everything was done in the interest of God. He advised that Srila Prabhupada not worry. His disciples were worthy and would maintain things. Therefore, Prabhupada should now simply think of the Lord. Hmm. So even Narayan Maharaj is saying. Of course, Narayan Maharaj later on helped Prabhupada's disciples a lot with many things, philosophically and management-wise also. And he was also a great person, great devotee, and he had many disciples. And not too many, few years ago, he also left his body. His lectures and books are very popular, actually. Narayan Maharaj then asked his assistant, Sheshashai Brahmachari, to sing Shri Rupa Manjari Pada. While everyone listened in silence, and Srila Prabhupada lay still, Sheshashai Brahmachari sang the song very sweetly. Next, Narayan Maharaj sang a bhajan, finishing with the refrain, Jai Gurudev, Jai Prabhupada. After a pause, Narayan Maharaj spoke again, this time referring to Srila Prabhupada's disciples. They should be told that they should never get motivated by their own self-interest, he said. They should make your mission successful. They should never get motivated by their own self-interest. This is the duty of every disciple. That only interest is how to make Prabhupada's mission successful. Srila Prabhupada turned his head slowly, looking over the devotees as they gathered in even more closely. Then slowly he lifted his hand as if to call them all to attention and said, do not fight among yourselves. I have given direction in my books. He then lowered his hand. Do not fight among yourselves. That was his biggest worry, that after he is gone, who's going to guide them? Who's going to stop them from fighting among themselves? Like Prabhupada also said, your love for me will be shown how you cooperate among yourselves when I'm gone. So obviously there was big society management, there can be many things. So there were issues, there were fightings. Prabhupada's god brother, Indupati, entered the room. Srila Prabhupada heard his greeting and repeated his request. First of all, I want to say forgive me for all my offenses. I didn't want to hurt anyone, but while preaching, one has to sometimes say something that may offend others. Will you forgive me? Yes, yes, Indupati said. Maharaj, you didn't commit any offense, said Narayan Maharaj. We never thought that you did anything wrong. On the other hand, you bless us. We need it. You never did any wrong. If someone is offended by your actions, that's his fault. So see humility of Prabhupada. He's asking for forgiveness. Narayan Maharaj then gently took Srila Prabhupada's right hand and felt his pulse. After a moment or two, he said, Pulse is all right, and your consciousness is perfect. If you have to go by the will of the Lord, then you will go perfectly. Promising to return again, Narayan Maharaj asked permission to leave, and he and Indupati and the party left the room. Srila Prabhupada's disciples moved back and remained silent, not wanting to instigate any conversation to unnecessarily tax Prabhupada. They appreciated Narayan Maharaj's words, but it was another final goodbye. Before the atmosphere of despair could engulf them, they again began their soft singing kirtan. Yes, kirtan is the only thing that can uplift somebody. And no unnecessary conversations or anything. Early one morning in October, as Srila Prabhupada continued fasting from food and drink, Upendra made an innocent but somewhat impertinent complaint. How can you refuse to drink? He asked. What's wrong if I don't drink? Srila Prabhupada replied, I feel no inconvenience. Upendra added that if Srila Prabhupada didn't drink, his body would become dehydrated. Prabhupada made no reply, and Upendra left the room. What about water? Abhiram asked. Srila Prabhupada thought for a moment and said, So you discuss among yourselves and decide what you want me to do. Discuss? He seemed to be speaking of more than the merits of drinking water. Discuss about recovery? Asked Abhiram. I don't want, said Srila Prabhupada. You say you don't want recovery, Srila Prabhupada? Yes, said Srila Prabhupada. Abhiram then went to the outer room, the secretary's reception room, where some of the GVC men were sitting together. He dutifully mentioned that what Srila Prabhupada had just said, to discuss among themselves about his recovery. But Abhiram's remark didn't seem like news. The devotees were already well aware that Prabhupada was making almost no attempt to carry on. They were signed to it. Srila Prabhupada wanted to leave now, to die peacefully. They had been trying to encourage him to drink, but now he was determined to simply fast until the right time came. Whether they could accept it or not, it was happening. Therefore, Abhiram's comment provoked no formal discussion. He just he just wanted to leave. No, he didn't want to recover, no doctor, no drinks, no food, just Harinam, and he wanted to depart. Tough, very tough situation. Anyway, so we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments. Okay. Jai Shila Prabhupada.